again, we'll take the official steps once we do have a quorum. So the plan today is to hear about the amended version of House File 1, the Great Start for All Minnesota Children Act. This morning, for this first hour and a half, we're going to have the bill be presented to us and ask some questions of testifiers as appropriate, et cetera. And then we're going to come back this evening at 5:30 to resume the presentation of the bill and then to receive public testimony, with the plan being that then on Thursday is when we will discuss and vote on the bill. And a reminder to members that, and members of the public as well, that amendments to the bill will be due at 3 p.m. on Wednesday if there are any. We're going to have Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn will start with the presentation, and we'll have Ms. Mock from House Research walk us through the provisions of the bill. There are a number of pieces to it, and so my plan is to have the presentation of the bill by Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn and her testifiers kind of talk about the different topic areas, and then we'll invite questions along the way as we go. Are there any questions from members who are here? I know we're missing a few about the plan for these next couple of days at all. And I'm not seeing it. I'll certainly ask again as we get more folks around. So Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, why don't we have you head on up and begin the presentation. And again, once we have a quorum, we'll put the bill formally before us, et cetera. I know that you'll have, and I'll point members to the DE5 amendment in your folders, and members of the public as well, which is the version that we'll be discussing. And so with that, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, if you want to start your presentation on the bill, and then we'll proceed from there.
Okay, very good. Mr. Chair, members, advocates, parents, and caregivers, good morning. I'm excited to be back to discuss the new and improved Great Start for All Minnesota Children Act. As you know, House File 1 is a bold set of investments to support our youngest Minnesotans and their families by addressing both the persistent opportunity gap and the nationwide child care crisis. Last year, we heard regularly how the first few years of a child's life truly does impact the rest of their life. In House File 1, we highlight some critical initiatives to stem the opportunity gap here in Minnesota by increasing home visiting opportunities, investing in both scholarships and childcare assistance to help families cover the cost of childcare, and supporting childcare providers by increasing rates, providing grants for potential improvements in delivery, and offering the opportunity for ongoing process improvement. We know there are thousands more children and families that we can help. So this year, we are doing everything we can to meet Minnesota families where they are right now. Children are only young once, and now is the time to invest in them. This is a down payment on the future of our state. Our kids can't wait, and their future begins today. As a parent to 3 young children, I empathize with the families struggling to find quality, affordable childcare across the state. I know firsthand what it is like to spend almost twice a mortgage payment on childcare costs and to try and figure out whether to take unpaid time away from work or to spend much, if not all, a paycheck on childcare. These are the tough choices that Minnesota parents are facing on a daily basis. I'm grateful for the testifiers who will share their stories today about the positive impact of scholarships and CCAP that have had on their lives. Just last week, we heard from DHS on the numerous improvements made to their process to strengthen program integrity. This was a huge focus of the work that we did here together last year. With those adjustments made, we can feel confident that increased funding to the Childcare Assistance program and to provider reimbursement rates will help even more families in need. With not one, but 2 2019 field hearings on the intersection between childcare and jobs, we had the fortune to learn about some of the struggles that are facing families, providers, and community partners in greater Minnesota. We've learned that these struggles are not unique to the state of Minnesota, and in fact, we see comparable rates and declining availability in Wisconsin with a different regulatory climate. I value the insight of providers sharing the challenges that they have in high-quality delivery with low reimbursement rates. An update to this proposal, based on the feedback from our greater Minnesota advocates, is moving to one consistent statewide reimbursement rate. Additionally, this proposal includes numerous grant programs to better support childcare providers as they get their business off the ground or take desired steps to grow their business and continue developing essential skills in this ever-evolving industry. It's clearer now than ever, the economics of childcare don't work. When we listen to parents and providers, we hear that there is not a one-size-fits-all delivery model that works for every family, and there are improvements that we can make in regulatory reform to better support all types of providers. We will hear more from Representative Wozlowick about suggestions from the Childcare Regulatory Reform Group. In order to aid providers to make potential delivery improvements, we must continue to adjust our own processes, including an evaluation of Parent Aware. It's important to know how well our investments are working. Ongoing feedback from parents and caregivers is essential. Taking the time to evaluate our systems and provide the funding necessary to do so is critical. To better discern where we may encourage providers to improve delivery and to see how we all can better prepare our children for a lifetime of learning, investing in a consistent kindergarten readiness assessment is crucial. I appreciate and acknowledge the expertise of our medical and community development professionals who've shared the data showing us that these investments have a measurable impact on outcomes. The research that we've seen shows that the first few years, 0 to age 3, has driven our focus to shift investment directly to our youngest Minnesotans and littlest learners. The consortium of advocates that we will hear from across the early childhood spectrum will remind us that no single piece of legislation can get us exactly where we want to go, but when we work together and provide support for families when and where they need it the most, we can accomplish wonderful things. There is a saying about investing: someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree long time ago. When we take the steps necessary to fulfill our commitment to each Minnesota child that they may reach their true potential, we are planting that tree. Every child deserves a great start to life here in Minnesota, and we all benefit when that happens. I know that while we have a long time to go, this package is also a great start. With that, Mr. Chair, I will ask that Annie walk us through the details on just how we're going to do it.
Thank you, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn. So we're going to do a couple bits of business since we now do have a quorum before we have Ms. Mock walk us through the bill. So one thing I want to do is, members, you'll have in your packet the minutes from Thursday, February 13th. And if I can have a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Representative Morrison. So Representative Morrison moves approval of the minutes from February 13th. Any discussion? And hearing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we've approved last Thursday's minutes. And then Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, I think we'll have you move that House File 1 be approved and re-refer to the Health and Human Services Finance Division. Is that your motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that HF1 be re-referred to the Health and Human Services Finance Division.
Okay, thank you. And then Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn has the DE5 amendment to put the bill in the shape that she wishes. Are you moving that amendment, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn?
I move the DE5 amendment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And hold on one moment. Okay, and so any discussion? So hearing none, all in favor of approval of the author's amendment of the DE5, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, so the DE5 has been added to House File 1, and that's the bill that's before us. Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, so we heard your opening remarks, and so it sounds like the plan next is to have Ms. Mock with House Research walk us through the pieces of the bill. Just for the benefit of members, the thought, who were not here earlier, the thought is to just make sure we've got a solid understanding of what's in the bill from Ms. Mock, and then we're going to have a series of presentations from testifiers and different components of the bill. And when we get to that, we can talk a bit about questions for them versus saving questions, et cetera. But Ms. Mock, if you can just walk us through the bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as noted, I'll be walking through the DE5, and particularly looking at the bill summary for the DE5, which you should have in front of you. The DE5 has 3 articles. The first article is related to home visiting. Section 1 establishes a new home visiting program and directs the Commissioner of Health to award grants to community health boards, nonprofit organizations, and tribal nations to start up or expand home visiting programs serving pregnant women and families with young children. These programs must support voluntary home visits by early childhood or health professionals, and the grant funds must be used for evidence-based home visiting programs that address health equity or evidence-informed home visiting programs that address health equity. The Commissioner is required to give priority in awarding the grants to programs seeking to expand home visiting services with community or regional partnerships. At least 75% of the grant funds are to be allocated to the evidence-based programs, and up to 25% are to be allocated to the evidence-informed programs. The commissioner is to use up to 10% of the annual appropriation for training and technical assistance and to administer and evaluate the program. And the commissioner is allowed to contract for training, capacity building, technical assistance, and evaluation support. Section 2 of Article 1 appropriates $30 million in fiscal year 2021 from the general fund for this home visiting program. Article 2 has provisions related to early learning and care. Section 1 has to do with the Quality Rating and Improvement System, CRIS, or Parent Aware. Under current law, the framework of the Quality Rating and Improvement System is laid out, and it is informed by the evaluation results of a quality rating system that was in effect in fiscal year 2008. This section would modify current law to direct the Commissioner of Human Services to arrange an independent evaluation of CRIS and then use the evaluation findings to revise the system. Specifically, the Commissioner is to arrange by February 1, 2021, an independent evaluation of the system's effectiveness and impact on children's progress towards school readiness, the quality of the early care and education workforce, and parents' ability to access meaningful information about program quality. The evaluation is to be performed by a consultant or a staff member from an agency other than DHS. Each evaluation has to meet specified minimum criteria regarding the analyses that have to be conducted for the evaluation. The evaluation findings and the Commissioner's recommendations for potential future evaluations have to be reported to the chairs and ranking members of the legislative committees with jurisdiction over earlier learning and childcare. Section 2 of Article 2 sets the combined count of participants for voluntary pre-K and school readiness plus at 7,160 annually on an ongoing basis. Under current law, the number of participants is set to drop to 3,160 starting in fiscal year 2022. Section 3 modifies the kindergarten readiness assessment. Under current law, the Commissioner of Education is permitted but not required to implement a kindergarten readiness assessment. This Section 3 would require the Commissioner of Education to implement the kindergarten readiness assessment and would also direct the Commissioner to provide school districts and charter schools with a process for measuring kindergarten readiness and also direct the Commissioner to provide measurement tools that the district and charter school can use for this assessment. Every district and charter school would be required to use this Commissioner-provided process beginning in the 2021 to 2022 school year. And every district and charter school would have to report kindergarten readiness results to the Department of Education. And then the commissioner would then have to publicly report the kindergarten readiness results and additionally integrate those data into the statewide longitudinal educational data systems. Section 4 of Article 2 relates to the early learning scholarships, and specifically it changes the eligibility for the scholarships. So under current law, a scholarship recipient must be 3 or 4 years old with some exceptions. This section would lower the scholarship age, eligibility for the scholarship to require that a recipient is from birth through age 3, except for the following. A sibling of a scholarship recipient who can be through age 4, a child not yet age 5 who's participating in a Pathway 2 program, and a recipient who had previously received a scholarship until that child is eligible for kindergarten. Section 5 also relates to the early learning scholarships, and this has to do with program eligibility. Under current law, beginning July 1, 2020, any program that wants scholarships or wants to accept scholarships has to have a 3 or 4-star parent aware rating. That deadline would be extended to July 1, 2022. Section 6 of Article 2 removes the sunset on a formula that's used for calculating school readiness plus programs, and this is a conforming change made related to the change in the ongoing count of participants in voluntary pre-kindergarten and school readiness plus. Section 7 is an appropriation for the early learning scholarships. This section would add $190 million to the existing fiscal year 2021 appropriation. Section 8 is an appropriation for the kindergarten readiness assessment and would add about $2.4 million to the existing fiscal year 2021 appropriation. Section 9 is an appropriation for the quality rating and improvement system, adding $1.65 million to the fiscal year 2021 appropriation. Section 10 would direct the Commissioner of Human Services to contract with an organization or a consultant to develop a proposal for a risk-based model for monitoring compliance with family child care licensing standards. The contractor would have to engage with stakeholders to gather input about appropriate licensing standards and appropriate tiers for violations of the standards, and also analyze licensing data to identify key indicators that predict compliance with other licensing standards for use in an abbreviated inspection process. The commissioner would have to submit a report and propose legislation for implementing the new licensing model to the legislature no later than February 1, 2023. Section 11 of Article 2 provides an appropriation of $850,000 in fiscal year 2021 for this family child care regulation modernization project. Article 3 relates to child care availability. The first section amends the CCAP rates. So under current law, the maximum CCAP rates are set at the 25th percentile of the market rate in the 2011 Child Care Provider Rate Survey, and those rates vary by price clusters across the state. Section 1 would modify the rate so that it would be equal to the 25th percentile of the market rate in the county or county price cluster with the highest cost 25th percentile in the most recent Child Care Provider Rate Survey. So the change there is moving from the 2011 Provider Rate Survey to the most recent, and also moving from rates that vary across the state to one statewide rate. The section would also modify the maximum registration fee that can be paid for the program. Section 2 of Article 3 establishes a new grant program, the Retaining Early Educators Through Attaining Incentives Now RETAIN grant program. The grant program would provide competitive grants to incentivize well-trained child care professionals to stay in the workforce. The Commissioner of Human Services would allocate the grant funds to a nonprofit organization to administer the RETAIN grant program, and up to 10% of the grant funds could be used to administer the program. The grants would be made annually and allow the grant funds could be used for program supplies, training, or personal expenses. And beginning January 1, 2022, the Commissioner would have to report annually to the legislature on the number of grants awarded and the program outcomes. Section 3 of Article 3 modifies an existing grant program, the Teacher Education and Compensation Helps Program, which was established to provide tuition scholarships and education incentives to early care and education providers. This section would increase the tuition scholarships available from $5,000 per year to $10,000 per year, and also increase the minimum education incentives from $100 to $250 for participants in the tuition scholarships program if they complete a year of working in the early care and education field. It would also add to the type of employment applicants may have to include being employed by a public pre-kindergarten program. And it would modify the amount the scholarship recipients have to contribute from 10% to at least 10% of the total scholarship, and decrease the amount their employer has to contribute from 10% to at least 5% of the total scholarship. Section 4 of Article 3 would also relates to the TEACH grant program. So this would increase the amount a nonprofit organization that receives a TEACH grant can use to administer the program from 5% to 10% of the grant amount. Section 5 establishes a new grant program, a Family Friend and Neighbor grant program. The Commissioner of Health would be directed to make grants available, two types of grants available, one to fund community health boards, local or regional libraries, community-based organizations, nonprofit organizations, and Indian tribes working with family, friend, and neighbor caregivers. And the second types of grants for community-based partnerships to implement early literacy programs. With respect to the grants for the grants to work with the family, friend, and neighbor caregivers, the section identifies the activities for which these organizations can use the grant funds, and most of those activities relate to training and resource building. The grants for the early literacy programs must be used to fund existing or new partnerships between community health boards, local or regional library systems, community-based organizations, nonprofit organizations, or Indian tribes to implement early literacy programs in low-income communities. The Commissioner is directed to evaluate the impacts of the grants on children's school readiness, including but not limited to social emotional learning indicators, and submit a written report by February 1st, 2022 to the legislature. Section 6 of Article 3 directs the Commissioner of Human Services to provide grants to First Children's Finance for loans related to improving or planning, designing, and constructing child care or early childhood education sites. First Children's Finance would be required to report to the Commissioner the purposes for which the funds were used and also submit an independent audit for each fiscal year in which the grants are received. Section 7 appropriates $3.5 million in fiscal year 2021 for a grant to First Children's Finance. Section 8 appropriates $1 million in fiscal year 2021 for the Family Friend and Neighbor Grant Program. Section 9 has appropriations for the CCAP programs. There's appropriated $20 million in fiscal year 2021 to reduce the basic sliding fee program waiting list. And then $170 million is appropriated in fiscal year 2021 to increase childcare rates. So to determine the increased rates, the Commissioner would have to utilize the most recent childcare market rate survey and then set the new rate percentile such that the additional expenditure equals the $170 million appropriated. This is a one-time appropriation, and the rate would return to its regular amount beginning in fiscal year 2022. Section 10 provides appropriations to the Department of Employment for the Department of Employment and Economic Development. There appropriates $10 million for grants to local communities to increase the supply of child care providers to support economic development. Appropriates $4 million for a grant to the Minnesota Initiative Foundations, and also appropriates $150,000 for a grant to Women Venture to operate a business training program for child care providers and to create materials that can be used free of charge for startup, expansion, and operation of child care businesses. Section 11 of Article 3 is an appropriation for the Retain Grant Program, so it would appropriate $2.5 million in fiscal year 2021 for the program. Section 12 is an appropriation for the Teach Grant Program. $500,000 is appropriated in fiscal year 2021. And Section 13 is a revisor instruction directing the revisor to renumber the Teach Grant Program as a section in DHS statute, as it is a program administered by the DHS.
Thank you, Ms. Mock, and members of the public, I want to direct your attention to a spreadsheet that contains the finances for the bill, and to thank our just phenomenal nonpartisan staff for their work in putting all of this together. So, members, any clarification questions for Ms. Mock? Of course, we'll have plenty of time to talk through this. Just want to make sure. Okay, seeing none. So, if we can call up Ms. Robinson. And as she comes up, again, the plan, members, is to hear from testifiers regarding different portions of the proposal. I expect that we'll hear, sort of cover each of the areas. We'll have plenty of time on Thursday to talk about the bill as a whole. But as testifiers are up, if members have questions about the specific points that they've made or clarifications, please feel free to ask. If there's points members want to make or questions they want to ask regarding sort of the bigger picture on the bill, various things to Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, I might ask we save that for Thursday to make sure we can get through all of our testifiers today. So with that, Ms. Robinson, if you can introduce yourself, identify yourself for the record, and then please proceed.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Nidra Robinson. I'm the Early Childhood Program Manager at Simpson Housing Services. I'm also representing the Minnesota Coalition for Targeted Home Visiting and the Prenatal to 3 Coalition. Simpson Housing Services is a nonprofit providing support to people experiencing homelessness. Our programs include an emergency shelter, single adult supportive housing, and family supportive housing. And we strive to find housing for all of our individuals and families that we serve. At any given time, we provide supportive housing to 100 individuals, 250 families with over 500 children. Unfortunately, there are more children experiencing homelessness than adults in Minnesota. At Simpson Housing Services, our early childhood team of early childhood specialists go into the home and provide services centered around health and well-being, child development, parent education, and parenting support. Our parents that we serve are under extreme stress and often have to focus on just getting through the day with their families. Our goal is to support parents through these intense times and provide them with an opportunity to focus on meeting the developmental needs of their children while we help them to stabilize their family for long-term success. The home visiting language in Article 1 will help put session law into statute, and it will provide important flexibility and innovation, allowing programs to voluntarily serve families who do not meet the criteria to enter an evidence-based program. It's critical that we help stabilize families in need, especially when they ask us for assistance, because it positions them for long-term success. Thank you for your support of voluntary home visiting services across Minnesota.
Ms. Robinson, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Robinson, who, as you could tell, is here to focus. Oh, Representative Pryor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Robinson, thank you for your testimony. Could you help us understand a little bit more about homelessness, especially if we're talking about, infants, young children? What kind of, I know you can't say this is the majority. I'm not asking you to say like this is the majority, but could you give us some descriptions of what homelessness looks like for children?
Ms. Robinson.
Yes, I absolutely can. Right now, I have in our early childhood program about 178 children that are 0 to 5. Most of the parents that we are serving right now are young parents, anywhere from 18 to, I'd say, around 32-ish. So we're experiencing homelessness with very young children and, in my mind, very young parents. And our families are in transitional housing. We try to provide long-term and permanent supportive housing for them also, but they're in a situation where they don't necessarily know how long they're going to be in that housing that we're able to provide them with. So we have about, like I said, we had about 500 children. We actually serve children with their families 0 to 18. So the bulk of the other are children entering kindergarten and in public schools right now. But it's very, very challenging. It's hard to be poor. It's very challenging for our young parents to be able to not only find childcare that's affordable for them, and in some places where childcare that fits their needs. A lot of them are working in jobs that fast food jobs or jobs where they're not paying that much and they don't have that much control over when they're working. So they may be working in the evening or overnight, and it's really hard to find childcare for them to do that, and it's really hard to find affordable housing right now. Housing is off the charts right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, Ms. Robinson, who again was focused on Article 1, the home visiting piece. Ms. Robinson, thank you very much. And let's bring up Ms. Rao. Again, thank you. Who I believe will be speaking to the voluntary pre-K portion. The bill makes those those children who are temporarily receiving preschool support and extending that to make sure we're not going backwards in that area. Ms. Rao, please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Good morning. My name is Ms. Rao. Good morning, Chair Pinto and committee members. I'm a first grade teacher at Fridley at Stevenson Elementary. Formerly, I taught pre-K for 5 years. I'm here today in support of the provision to this bill to make pre-K funding, or VPK funding, permanent. Prior to age 5, a child's brain is more malleable, making early childhood education crucial for our children. They are like little sponges that soak up a great deal of information during the course of a school year. They enhance their cognitive, social, and emotional skills that will prepare them for the rest of their lives. The first 5 years of life is when most of the brain development occurs. Research on the short and long-term benefits of a high-quality preschool program found that there is up to a 30% reduction in achievement gap, higher math and reading performance, improved achievement in K-1 for second language learners, lower rates of teen pregnancy, more stable family lives, and a higher high school graduation rate. I want to share what the VPK funding has done for my district. Back in 2013, our pre-K program started with 2 sections, a morning and an afternoon class, with less than 20 students in each class. Fast forward to this year, the program now has 7 sections with 20 students in each section. Families who live in Fridley and surrounding cities show that they have a strong desire to send their child to a pre-K, which is apparent by the many families still on a wait list. Many families come from outside of Fridley to gain access to our pre-K program because their district does not provide a free pre-K program. Fridley is funded by both VPK dollars as well as School Readiness Plus dollars. The kindergarten teachers in the district have expressed that it's apparent which students come to pre-K and which have not. The students who have gone through our pre-K program enter kindergarten knowing how to do school. Our youngest scholars leave pre-K knowing how to walk in the hallways, sit for a 20-minute story, engage in meaningful conversations, advocate their wants and needs, and much, much more. I taught in Fridley at the pre-K level for 4 years. This past year, with a heavy heart, I left early childhood education. My biggest reason for leaving was the funding. Each year, I did not know whether or not I would have a job the following year. Without permanent funding, our job security was not there. It was stressful as a single income teacher to not know if I would be without a job each and every school year. I took a leap of faith and moved to first grade. While first grade is still classified as early childhood, it's much different than pre-K. However, I've had the rare opportunity to have some of the same students I had when I taught pre-K in the same district. As a first grade teacher, I'm able to see the impacts our pre-K program had on the students firsthand. In my classroom this year, I have a former student who tested out of special education because of the early interventions he received in pre-K, a student who spoke no English in pre-K, and 5 more students who are performing at or above grade level in every single subject. I also see firsthand the differences kindergarten teachers have seen. On the first day of school, I saw my former pre-K students able to do school, which was an amazing sight, all of which would not be possible without VPK funding. Looking back at my time in pre-K, I was always astonished at how much my students grew and matured in just 1 single year. I always sent them into summer break knowing that they would be ready to tackle the world when they started kindergarten. This would not be possible without the permanent funding of VPK dollars. I hope that you will consider making the funding permanent. The waitlist of families waiting to enroll and how much our program has grown in 5 years proves that there's a strong desire for preschool not only in Fridley, but in the state of Minnesota. All children need and deserve the opportunity to attend pre-K. It should not be limited to families who can afford to send their child, but instead open to each and every family. Families in Minnesota should have a peace of mind knowing that their child will have access to a quality education in pre-K and not have to wait for a last-minute funding to maybe be passed each and every year. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, for including this provision in your bill, and I ask you all for your support in this provision.
Ms. Rao, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Rao? All right, thank you for your work with your young kids. So I'm going to jump, I think, and have Ms. Fitzpatrick come up and Ms. Gabriel, if I can. And as they come up, just a reminder to folks that we'll be taking public testimony this evening after we reconvene at 5:30. We'll probably have a little more presentation of the bill and then public testimony, so you can sign up with the page if you want to be added to the list to testify. And so I'm not sure which of you wants to go first. Ms. Fitzpatrick, perhaps? Ms. Gabriel? Whoever does, please identify yourself for the record. And I think this is going to focus on the CCAP portion of the proposal.
Thank you, Chair Pinto and members of the committee. My name is Deborah Fitzpatrick, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here today representing Children's Defense Fund and also 2 broad coalitions, Prenatal to 3 and Kids Can't Wait Coalition. You have information on those coalitions in your packet. These are broad statewide coalitions of nonprofit, faith, childcare foundation, and business advocates that strongly support House File 1's $500 million investment as a critical down payment on a mixed delivery system that supports children, families, employers, communities, and our economy in multiple ways. Like many of you, CDF Minnesota heard in over 40 recent listening sessions across the entire state about the struggles families face finding stable, affordable, available care that they need in their communities to either enter or stay in the workforce, and the important role the Childcare Assistance program has played in helping them succeed. Childcare Assistance is the largest form of childcare support for low-income families and a vital, successful 2-generation program that reduces racial and geographic disparities by allowing families to work toward financial stability via employment or education. Despite increased need, since 2003, state investment in the basic sliding fee portion of the program has actually decreased by 37%, and 5,700 fewer families are served. The over 4,500 providers, half of them licensed family care providers, and 30,000 children that receive child care assistance each year are located in every single county in the state. With new House File 1 investments in childcare assistance, we can make sure that no families are left on the waiting list, and many fewer childcare businesses are expected to provide care at rates well below costs, jeopardizing their ability to expand or even to stay in business and provide high-quality care. Minnesota's reimbursement rates are out of step with many neighboring states and are out of federal compliance, jeopardizing federal funding if state action is not taken this session. So now I'd like to turn it over to Sharice, who will share some of her experience as a provider.
And please identify yourself for the record and then proceed.
Mr. Chairman and members, my name is Sharice Gabriel. I am the director of the St. Paul Eastside Early Childhood Learning Center. We are located not far from here, and we serve just under 100 students. About 40% of them are low income, and I am here on behalf of the State Alliance of YMCAs. I must constantly explain to parents that childcare assistance alone isn't enough. Not surprisingly, many of these parents are absolutely floored to learn that despite the fact that they finally got the job that can help keep their families stable, despite the fact that they qualify for assistance, despite days spent navigating multiple systems, despite all of this, these working mothers and fathers will still have to find a way to bridge the gap between reimbursement rates and the actual cost of childcare. Sadly, many of these conversations end with parents telling me that they cannot make it work, their faces down-stricken. Everything they have strived to build falls apart. Raising childcare assistance rates is critical to the supply of childcare as well. Low pay for teachers has created a very real and difficult staffing shortage. This impacts our ability to open more classrooms and increase access for families. In fact, YMCAs have empty classrooms across the state just sitting there, ready to serve children, but we can't hire and retain quality staff at the wages that we offer. Increasing childcare assistance rates would give us more resources to pay staff. Believe me, we want to put every new dollar possible towards paying teachers more. They deserve it for their critical role in educating our children. This is not babysitting. This is early childhood education. If we want the results that promises, we need to pay for it. Please vote for this bill. Please vote for the children of our state, their parents, and the professionals who serve them. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Ms. Gabriel. Any questions for Ms. Fitzpatrick or Ms. Gabriel? And seeing none, okay, thank you so much. We'll ask Mr. Losness and Ms. Faber to come up. I know Ms. Faber especially had quite a long drive, I'm aware. And I believe they're going to be discussing the early learning scholarship portion of the bill. And so whichever of you would like to go first, please identify yourself for the record and then proceed. Okay, Mr. Losness, looks like you're going to go first.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm John Losness, Executive Director of Families First in Minnesota in Rochester. It was a lovely drive up today. Thank you for the opportunity to share our thoughts on early learning scholarships. Demand for scholarships is high. We have more than 600 children on our waiting lists across southern Minnesota, 3 counties in the Twin Cities and 5 in Lake Mille Lacs that we serve in our program. The scholarship program currently focuses investment in high-quality early childhood for 3- and 4-year-olds living at 185% of poverty. Because of such high demand, most new scholarships go to children in 4 priority areas: children of teen parents, children in foster care, those in need of protective services, and those who have been homeless in the last 24 months. Many poor families that don't meet those criteria go without scholarships. We believe increased investment in scholarships is money well spent. We hear of the challenges families face on a daily basis and know that a scholarship can be the difference between a parent staying in the workforce and having to stay home. We also appreciate the interest in focusing the new investment in children birth to age 3. These are the most critical years in a child's brain development, and investing at an early age can provide a lifetime of paybacks. Finally, we believe increasing investment in early childhood is vital for another reason. The industry itself is struggling mightily. Our agency opened a nonprofit child care center late last year. We know the business. We could coach child care providers through our Child Care Aware contract. Yet even those in our agency weren't prepared for the challenges in staffing this center. We have yet to find staff for our toddler classroom. Despite being short almost 1,000 childcare slots in Rochester, we're unable to reach our center's capacity because we can't find staff. Childcare is one of the lowest paying professions in our nation, yet its customers are some of our most precious resources. Investing in scholarships can help families meet childcare and early education needs, but it can also increase the funding available to pay childcare workers a livable wage. Relatively speaking, scholarships are a small investment in children. With this money, it would only be a 5-year investment that could set up children for a lifetime of success. We need workers ready to compete in a global economy. Early education can set children up for a lifetime of higher earnings. We're eager to see this program grow to meet the needs of the families we serve. Current funding only allows us to award priority children. This leaves hundreds of children on our wait list for almost a year. It is likely with additional funds we would be able to serve not only priority children, but those non-priority children birth to 3 that apply. We would need intentional outreach, especially in our rural counties, to identify the eligible children in programs with availability. We're ready to meet that challenge. By maintaining access to programs with 1- and 2-star ratings, we believe we can find placement for these young children. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Faber, if you can identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Good morning. My name is Barb Faber, and I'm from White Earth. I'm a tribal member, but I'm the CEO of Indigenous Visioning. And I thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. I'm the former administrator for the tribe White Earth's Childcare and Early Childhood Program. And I had the extreme pleasure of administering the Early Learning Scholarship, as we were one of the 4 transformation zone sites for the state's Race to the Top. In White Earth, we did our own licensing. We had tribal licensing. And we also administered Childcare Assistance through the Childcare Development Block Grant. And so when we were allowed to administer the Early Learning Scholarships, that funding provided important gap funding for children and families who did not meet the child care assistance qualifications. So it was very flexible and it met the family's needs. And prior to the Race to the Top funding, we had approximately 15 to 16 tribally licensed child care providers. And when we became a site, we also promoted and supported our providers to become parent-aware rated. And it was a wonderful thing. Our providers, while they were at first were reluctant for something new, they eventually embraced it. And we also were allowed to, able to recruit new child care providers. Currently, White Earth has 22 tribally licensed child care providers, and 20 of those are parent-aware rated. Children coming from our parent-aware rated child care sites, they were ready for kindergarten. Parents loved how fast their children were learning, and we heard from many of the local kindergarten teachers that they could tell the children coming from our child care sites because they came to school ready. And they didn't have to play catch-up, but they were ready to learn. Early learning scholarships, we heard from numerous parents who were extremely appreciative for early learning scholarships because it allowed them to go to school, find funding, and it was flexible. So it met the family's needs. And in rural Minnesota, that's very important because you have to, families have to take their children to providers. And, while there are some schools there with pre-K, it's mostly childcare providers that parents need. And I was also a former chair of the National Indian Child Care Association for many years, and we worked with many states. And I was very, very proud to have Minnesota have the quality rating system parent-aware because other states, some states that I worked with did not have it. And so when Parent Aware became available, it was extremely helpful to children and families and our childcare providers. And I think that's all. Thank you for.
Thank you so much, Ms. Faber. Any questions for Mr. Losnes or Ms. Faber? And seeing none, thank you so much. I'm going to ask Ms. McCauley to come up now. So we've heard about, so this is an area, Ms. McCauley, I think, is going to be speaking about the retained grants, which we heard about last year, but about the teach grants, which we had not heard about. And so, Ms. McCauley, if you can identify yourself for the record, and then please proceed.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ann McCulley. I serve as Executive Director of Childcare Aware of Minnesota, and we are the current administrator for both the Teach Early Childhood Scholarship Program and the Retain Workforce Retention Program. You have one-page handouts in your packets that go into some of the history and the details, so I'll just hit the highlights. As you've heard through testimony in this committee and elsewhere, the early childhood field is challenged by poor wages and high turnover. It's also a workforce that is hard-pressed to afford the cost of higher education, despite a desire by many to achieve this goal. The Teach Early Childhood Scholarship Program is a national model that is licensed in 20 states to help early childhood and school-age professionals in both center-based and family childcare home settings increase their levels of education, compensation, and commitment to the field by earning college credits and degrees. This program began in Minnesota in 2002 and has helped over 1,000 early educators attain their early childhood certification or degrees to date. Teach scholarships currently cover 85% of the cost of tuition and books for up to 18 semester credits per year. The remainder is covered by the recipient and their place of employment. Recipients also receive a travel stipend and release time, and a raise or one-time bonus upon completion. Scholarships then, recipients then commit to remaining in their place of employment for at least 1 year after each scholarship end date. Since these early educators are attending school while still working, it may take them several years to attain their degree, so there is continuity of staffing both during the time they're in their education and for 1 year after each contract. The Retain Grant Program started in Minnesota in 2003 to provide a bonus to those who've been working full-time for at least 1 year in their current position and have already completed a CDA certificate or an associate, bachelor's, or master's degree in early childhood or a related field. And it does exactly what the name implies or seeks to do that. We want to retain our early childhood educators in their place of employment. We offer 2 different rounds of retain bonuses each year. One is for center-based childcare and one is for family childcare. And bonuses range from $500 to $3,500 depending on the applicant's career lattice step education level. These bonuses can be used to cover professional or personal expenses that impact a provider's ability to meet their needs. Since 2003, we've awarded these bonuses to over 2,000 early childhood professionals. In a recent evaluation of the Retain program by Child Trends, 92% of those surveyed indicated that the Retain bonus was enough to help them, and surveyed recipients most commonly described the funds as helpful for purchasing goods and resources, either for personal use or for their child care program. And you do also have a one-pager on some of the results of that evaluation. While private funding helped to fund both of these programs back in 2002, 2003, the core funding for both Teach and Retain for the past 15 years has come from the Federal Child Care and Development Block Grant, which comes through the Minnesota Department of Human Services. And this funding has fluctuated over time. What this means is that with the Retain program in particular, depending on the pool of applicants, we've turned away upwards of 2/3 of the providers who have applied during some rounds. And the Teach Early Learning Scholarship Program has seen a steady increase in demand since its inception. Additional state funds would allow us to broaden and deepen the pool of early educators who receive Teach scholarships and Retain grants, and add one more tool to the toolbox to address compensation and retention in the child care community.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Any questions for Ms. McCauley or questions about the Retain or Teach programs? I'll point out, as Ms. McCauley said, there are, I think, actually a total of 4 pieces of paper that I found in our handouts that relate to these programs. But any questions anybody has about them? And not seeing any questions. So, Ms. McCauley, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll ask Ms. Keller and Ms. Moss then to come up to talk about some of the evaluation pieces of the proposal. Some members, you'll recall from Ms. Mock's presentation that the proposal contains an evaluation of the parent-aware system, which is Minnesota's quality rating and improvement system for childcare, and then also an evaluation, also kindergarten readiness assessment, because we want to make sure that, to assess how all this is working out. So I'm not sure which one of you wishes to go first. I guess maybe Ms. Keller will have you start, unless you'd rather have Ms. Mosco, and then just whoever's going to go, identify yourself for the record, and then please proceed.
Absolutely, I won the coin toss.
You did.
So my name is Cisa Keller. I'm the Senior Vice President of Early Childhood Quality Development at Think Small. And I'm here as the co-convener, one of the co-conveners of the Early Childhood Crisis Work Group, which is a group of advocates and business leaders looking to address two very serious issues that every community in Minnesota is facing. And that is our achievement gap and our child care crisis. This work group came together to try to put proposals together and put them forward to address both of those issues, not one or the other, but really wanting to make sure that we were looking at those issues together. And so I am here specifically to talk about the parent-aware evaluation. As you're hearing today, the various elements of our early childhood system are really built on the foundation of parent-aware. And so we think it is vitally important to make sure that we are keeping parent-aware and looking at how it is working through a lens of continuous improvement. Is it working well? Where is it working well? Where are areas of opportunity? The early childhood education system is a very dynamic system. And so we want to make sure that it's working as intended and working in every community. And so with that, I just want to say we have done evaluations. They were privately funded. We had 8 evaluations over an 8-year period that were both philanthropically and privately funded. And so what we're looking to is actually put it into state statute so that we have an ongoing evaluation to answer the questions that were put into the language as described.
I think, Ms. Keller, it may be worth, I'm just doing a bit of a pause on, can you just back up a little bit on parent-aware and just make sure that we're all solid on kind of how
Absolutely.
it's being used? Because there's I think for many of us, the thought of having an evaluation of the system, whether you feel wonderful about it, you have lots of concerns, I think hopefully we all would agree there should be, that having that assessment evaluation would be really helpful. But if you can just step back a bit, just make sure we're all solid on parent-aware.
Yeah, I can do a little bit of a Parent-Aware 101. So Parent-Aware is the Minnesota State's quality rating and improvement system. Quality rating and improvement systems are something that almost every state in the nation actually have at this point. We're actually required by our Child Care Development Block Grant, which is what funds the Childcare Assistance Program, to have a quality rating and improvement system. And so in Minnesota, that is Parent-Aware. Parent-Aware was very specifically designed with the lens of empowering families with information on how to choose the childcare that best, or the early learning programming that best meets their family's needs. And so as we designed the program and evaluated it, again, over those first few years, we were trying to look at what were the fewest number of indicators that were most aligned with school readiness practices to make sure that children had the skills, knowledge, experiences to not only be ready for school, but really be ready for life. And so over time, we are constantly looking at, do we have the right set of indicators? Do we have the right supports for providers to be able to meet those indicators? Are we providing parents with the information they need to be able to understand those various indicators and how to make those choices? Again, we know that parents are ultimately every child's best teacher, and so we need to empower them with that information to be able to make those choices, and those choices may change over time. So what may work for them as an infant may be a different choice when they're 4, and so we want to make sure parents have that information.
Okay, good, thank you. I think Ms. Moss is going to be talking about the kindergarten readiness assessment, so before we move to her, are there questions that folks have about the parent-aware evaluation in the bill? It's in Article 2, Section 1, just to make sure in case. There'll be other chances too, of course, but just in case. Okay, so Ms. Moss, we'll turn to you if you can identify yourself for the record, and then please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Erica Moss. I'm the Executive Director of an early education-oriented organization called Close Gaps by 5. We're a business-led organization. We've been active in this space for over a decade, and we're really excited to be here today to share our support for many of the provisions in the bill, among them early learning scholarships, home visiting, among others. And today I'm going to talk specifically about the kindergarten entry assessment provision in the bill. Our organization is part of the work group that Ms. Keller mentioned, and One of the recommendations of that group, and in fact, a recommendation that the Office of the Legislative Auditor made to the legislature in 2018, is to implement a statewide kindergarten readiness assessment. This is an assessment that happens for kindergartners as they come into their kindergarten year. It's a formative assessment, so it gives information to teachers about where those children are in their development. And it can also give information back to the early childhood programs that those kids came from. So we are really excited about the idea of having this kind of an assessment in Minnesota system, not only because of the benefit that it can give children and their teachers, kindergarten teachers working with them, but also the information that it can give this emerging early childhood system that we have in Minnesota. As you all on this committee are learning, there are lots of different moving parts and pieces, lots of different investments. And really what's happened over our time in this space over the last 10 years is that we're developing a system. We're developing a much more intentional system for supporting our young children. It's absolutely what we need to do. It's policies and investments that are responsive to what research says about children's development, about our gaps. But as we develop that system and as we're making these investments, it's also important to undergird that system with some basic infrastructure for understanding what's happening, what kinds of experiences are children having in their early childhood years, how are our investments in policies working, what changes do we need to make to continuously improve. And as somebody who comes up here every year and talks to you all about how important these investments are, we want to make sure that as advocates, we're also bringing forward ideas for these kinds of for building into the system accountability, as with the kindergarten entry assessment. So we're happy to lend our support, happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. And I'll just note for folks, so currently there is this voluntary assessment that we're spending, I think it's $200,000 per year. Is that, maybe you could just talk a little bit about the transition from what we're doing now to what would be happening under the proposal, Ms. Moss?
Sure, Mr. Chair and members. Currently, there is about, I believe, a $281,000 annual investment that the legislature is making in what Chair Pinto just described correctly as a voluntary participation kindergarten entry assessment effort, excuse me. What the proposal in House File 1 would do is scale that up to a statewide assessment, assessing every incoming kindergartner and making that information available, again, to understand what's happening in the system, for parents to understand what's happening with their children. And so it would be moving from an assessment that's done in some places to an assessment that's done everywhere. Just briefly, the way that it works is the Department of Education has identified 4 assessment tools that they have approved. Those tools are aligned with the Early Childhood Indicators of Progress and with kindergarten standards. And districts would be able to choose from those 4 tools the assessment that they would like to use, and would get support from the department for implementing the assessment. And then the results would be reported through the early childhood, state early childhood
longitudinal data system.
Yes, thank you.
Studying. Okay, good. Thank you. Was there something else you can add?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right, good. Any other questions regarding the kindergarten? I think in the bill, kindergarten readiness assessment. Any other questions regarding that from anybody? And not seeing any. Okay. Well, I'll thank both of you. And so I think at this point we're going to talk about the family child care regulatory modernization, I think is the term that's in there. And I think Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, the thought on that is that we can have the co-chair of the Family Child Care Task Force speak on our behalf. Unfortunately, she's at the table, since that is Representative Wozlowick.
A happy coincidence, Mr. Chair.
Indeed, that's very nice. So Representative Wozlowick, if you can just talk with us a bit, because my understanding is that this does come out of the work of the task force that you co-chair. Maybe just, we have not had a formal report from that task force as of yet. If you can just talk a little bit about the work you've done and how this comes out of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I am, as Representative Pinto said, I am the co-chair of the Family Child Care Task Force, along with Senator Mary Kiffmeyer in the Senate. And we have been meeting since September of last year to talk about the duties that were outlined in statute from last year. So we've been meeting there, and Representative Dameth is also on the task force.
right.
And so one of the recommendations that will be coming out later in the report this year, that's due March 1st, is to do some modernization of the regulations for the family child care area. So a couple of things that the Family Child Care Task Force decided they wanted to pursue were what's known as a tiered violation system. So essentially, having different tiers of violations, so similar to what's known as a fix-it ticket versus a correction order. So different tiers, violations based on the risk to the health and safety of the children. And then also an abbreviated inspection process. So for those providers who are meeting kind of these guidelines that if they have, and this is what we're going to be developing as a system, but if they meet certain guidelines, they're able to have an abbreviated inspection process as opposed to the longer inspection process that takes place. For those providers who are meeting guidelines and doing a good job, they would have an abbreviated inspection process. So this House File 1 would dedicate some money to starting this process. And we have had conversations with the National Association for Regulatory Administration on kind of what that process looks like and laying out kind of the stakeholder engagement process for each of those pieces. And then another piece of this would be actually to update the licensing standards as part of this. So with the tiered violation system, we want to make sure that we're basing that on the standards we're going to use going forward. So a piece of this would also be kind of updating those standards, the rules, so that we have some more current standards, since these haven't been updated for several decades.
Since the 1980s, I believe. Okay, good, thank you. Anything, Representative Dameth, that you want to add as a member of the task force?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I don't have anything to add at this time. We look forward to that report coming out by March 1st.
Good, excellent, thank you so much. Yeah, and then any questions anybody has for Representative Wozlowick or regarding this Section 10 of Article 2 regarding that, and not seeing any at all. Okay, good. Thank you, Representative Wozlowick, then. So at this time, members, we have some other testifiers who are going to be here scheduled for this evening, and then we also had told members of the public that we would have public testimony this evening. So I think what we're going to do at this point, then, is to reconvene then. I want to remind anyone who does wish to provide public testimony this evening to connect with the, you can sign up with the page, and to do that, to get added to the list. I also want to ask members to be sure not to throw away the papers and materials that you have, because we will bring them back this evening. And so we will be, unless there's, are there any questions I should ask before we reconvene? And I am not seeing any. And so we will be back together. We'll be back together at 5:30 p.m. back in this very room. And with that, we are in recess. Thank you.